Hi, Terry Snow here. Welcome to Willinga Park. We're delighted that you've all been able to join us this weekend. It's a time for fun and fellowship, as well as preparing your horses and getting them going as well as can possibly be, and moving up your competition ladder. But I hope you don't take it all that seriously, that you enjoy to take a deep breath and relax. We've got fabulous gardens here for the people that aren't involved in their horses, and I'm sure you'll all have a good time. We've got good food and people here to look after you, and we hope that you have a pleasant weekend.
And welcome back to day 2 at Foresight Dressage by the Sea 2023. I'm Christine Crawford and I'm here with Dr. Jill Rickard. What are we going to see here this morning, Jill?
Welcome everyone. So this morning is the Grand Prix CDN. The Grand Prix is the highest level dressage test that the horses do. And the CDN refers to it being a national class. So in this class, we've got quite a few competitors, some of whom are established at this level and others who are new at this level.
And who do we have officiating today?
Well, our judges today at E, Melinda Hart from New South Wales. Give us a little wave, Melinda. Thank you. At C, Jane Ventura from Victoria. She's busy on the phone. And at M, Vittorio Barber from the Philippines. We love to have international judges judging us at these classes because we get a different perspective. And the judges, from the rider's perspective, that's a really nice thing to have new input.
We'd also like to thank our sponsors of the class. It's Denise Rogan and Tari's equipment. So thank you to the sponsors. We hope you enjoy the coverage. We'll be here for the next couple of days, so stay tuned. We've got our first horse coming down the ramp, about to start our first test of day 2. Jessica Clark riding Remember Me.
This is Jessica Clark riding Remember Me. Remember Me is by Regardez-moi out of Marge R. It's a tall black gelding. Good looking horse and ready for the judge's bell.
So welcome back to the live streaming. We've got our first horse about to enter the arena. Once that bell goes, we've got 45 seconds to enter the arena. So what are we going to be looking for today here in the Grand Prix CDN?
The Grand Prix test, the difference from yesterday in particular is the more accurate number of steps in the piaffe, more passage, more emphasis on the transitions between the two movements.
We've also got another, the changes we have more in the sequence, don't we?
Yes, we have 15 one-times changes required and 9 two-times changes.
So this test has started very well. Very impressive horse that fills the arena.
You'll notice that this half pass is a long half pass all the way across the arena. They make the change of bend at B and come all the way across. It's quite a struggle, it's quite steep. This horse is struggling a little bit more coming to the left, losing some bend. Then we have here halt and rein back of 5 steps.
So in the halt, what are they looking for, Jill?
We're always looking for a square halt, all 4 legs lined up, one beside each other and in line with each other. And then in the rein back, we're looking for 5 diagonal steps and an immediate trot off. This is medium trot into passage, and that should happen at V, which she did.
So unlike yesterday where the transition was a little bit more progressive, they're looking for this to be at a marker, aren't they?
Yes, and this is 12 to 15 steps, not progressing, ideally. She did quite a nice, that was quite nice nevertheless, but a little bit too progressive. But you certainly knew what you were looking at, and that's step 1. Don't surprise anyone with what you're doing, make sure they know what you're doing. And here in the extended walk, just like yesterday, we always want the nose to stretch forward, so then the front legs will take a bigger stride, and the horse will let go of its back a little bit more. She's currently trending on about 64%. It's been quite a polished beginning. Now this is collected walk. They walk all the way around to M. And at M, there's a transition mark into passage.
So that makes up quite a lot of the test, isn't it? The piaffe, the passage and the transition.
Yes, it's absolutely weighted towards piaffe and passage. That was a clean transition. Will score well. This is nice passage here, except its head's a little low. And coming too low in the piaffe.
Meaning that you're talking about the position of the head.
The position of the head, so the pole is too low. And we talked about the pole yesterday. The pole's that point between their ears. So we just want pole the highest point. Good transition into canter, nice and straight and prompt. She gets to canter around the bottom of the arena. Good picture there. And then this is getting ready for the 9 two-times changes. So you could count 9. That was terrific. I'm not going to say anything during the time, but that was great. A little bit of swinging. And then this is extended canter. So big, bold canter is what you're looking for. Again, the nose should go more forward, so we're trying to get the frame of the horse to look longer. And that was a little mistake there in that the flying change at the end should have been at K.
So will they get marked? Well, that won't be marked as an error, though, will it?
No, it'll just be marked down. This is the zigzag of 3 strides to the left to start with, then 6 strides left, right, left, right, left, finishing with another 3 strides in a flying change. The zigzag is a very difficult movement to do well. Requires real suppleness. 1 times changes now. This horse is confident in his changes, there's no doubt about it. And they were expressive. Coming down now towards the canter pirouette to the left. Bit of a wild preparation there where he wasn't sure what to do with his back legs. But she recovered, and now forwards to a change over X. There's the change. And then the right pirouette. The better beginning but then it's large.
So where are they looking for that to be placed? Over eye?
Over eye, which is on the centre line.
And what size should that be?
Oh, less than a metre.
Yeah.
Extended trot. Again, it's an impressive horse. It's got good movement, this horse. Just got some issues with the frame and the contact, and that is important, so that will bring the score down. Into passage, there'll be another piaffe here over X. 12 to 15 strides. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, good. And a square halt finish, and there's a mark for the halt and the immobility of the halt, and there probably isn't a mark for the smile, but you know, it's always good to see. And she's a happy rider.
She seems happy with her horse.
Yes.
And glad to be here in this beautiful Willinga Park.
We're just waiting for a score for Jessica Clark and Remember Me. And as we wait for that, we can see the next competitor, Alison Gill and Hilkins Denali, coming into the arena. And we now have a score for Jessica of 63.11%. Alison Gill and Hilkins Denali. Looking very relaxed as they walk around.
Welcome back. We're looking at a pony going around the arena, and if you're wondering what the numbers are on the side of the saddle blanket, for the ponies, they now have a P in front of the numbers. So she has a P and then the numbers, her bridle number or saddle number or horse number, whatever you want to call it. So just for the people at home that aren't aware of that.
So it's really lovely to see ponies at this level. There haven't been too many in Australia, but this pony did really well yesterday in the intermediate 2, so we can expect it to do a nice test today. And there's no difference in judging ponies to horses. You just have to say, well, they've got a different stride length, but he still has to do the same thing. So here's the extended trot with good reach. Kept the rhythm well all the way. This is an expressive trot going along here on the short side.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. He's very expressive.
Possibly it's a little easier for them in some of these steep movements to get across. But so the rider, of course, has to allow for that and ride more forward in order to still come to the marker at the right time. He's a little above the bit in both of these passes.
So for the people that don't know, what does that mean, above the bit? What are we thinking when we say a horse is above the bit?
Well, we're thinking it's not as round in its outline as it could be. And so there's a fine line. So although it had its poll up, it also had its nose poking forward. And so it's a little, the other word sometimes is against the bit, where the neck looks tight underneath.
So related to the connection of the rider, the
Yes,
hands
a little
and the
bit against what the rider's saying.
Yeah. Go to the passage here.
And she again, it's a good attempt at passage, nice lift in the knees, hocks are bending into the piaffe. And if she could keep that on the spot, that's a really nice piaffe.
Yeah.
It's a really nice piaffe, but it's still a little bit too progressive for this test. So instead of that getting an 8, it probably only gets a 6. That's kind of the difference.
She got a 6.8 for the transition.
Good. But here in the walk, this is a good walk. It's very much 4-beat. He's got all the right attitude in it where he looks relaxed but still on the job. Collected walk all the way across, quite a long way for small legs. She's trending on 66%, so this is good, going well so far. And direct passage, so that mark should score well. Nice passage. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So she stayed there good length of time, and it wasn't quite as progressive as the first one. So that mark could be a little bit higher. Ready for counting 9 twos. Yes, glorious 9, beautiful 2 times, well forward.
Quite big changes.
Quite big changes.
So just remember, if you want to participate in the spectator judging, there is an app you can download at the App Store, and you can give your scores, give a go at being a dressage judge. So unlike yesterday in this test, we're actually counting the number of strides that the horse does in the half pass, aren't we?
We are, and I was busy counting there under my breath, and she nailed that. It's good changes of direction, clean changes.
Counting again, aren't you?
Trying to. I'm pretty hopeful that was 15.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, thought processes. little bit crooked coming up the centre line before this pirouette. So a little bit of anticipation in the horse, pony. But again, quite a good pirouette, but they will have to be commenting on the fact that it was quarters in coming towards them, the judges, or running out of a little bit of steam, but she's recovered okay. This pony's putting in a mighty effort in this test, and he would be getting tired about now. He'd be thinking, oof, hope it's over soon. She's trending on 67%, which is a fabulous score. I suspect would be a personal best. And he's still saying, I can do it, I'm on.
What a great pony.
So you can just keep him a little bit round coming into this passage. It's impressive front on. Of course, we've only got one judge on the side here to look at whether she's on the spot at X as she piaffes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Oh. Little bit... He said, I'd like to leave now. But pretty well controlled, so that will cost her a mark probably. And a almost straight halt at the end. Lovely ending. Really, that was a very nice test. All areas covered well. She should be a happy rider. I'd be happy if that was me. Trending on 66.9 at the moment.
So who have we got here entering the arena, Jill?
Entering the arena right now is Linda Foster and Neversfield Samiro. We just had the score for Alison Gill and it was a fabulous 67.02%. I'm sure she'll be thrilled with that mark.
So we've had the bell and we've got Linda Foster entering the arena now. So Linda always presenting a very polished picture. Quite a nice start to the test. She's trending on 67.
And just in that corner, just didn't get enough bend in the corner to set up for half pass right. So the horse is a bit too straight for right half pass, doing a better job now on left half pass. But more supple would be your comment, and you do have to have this ability to show a difference from left to right, right to left. Rein back, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, quite a nice rein back.
And what are they looking for out of the rein back? It's a direct depart, isn't it?
It's a direct depart from rein back into trot, which if the horse is on its back legs correctly is not hard, but if it's pulling on its front legs, much harder. Into the passage. A little bit weak into passage here, hasn't really established it yet. but nice job into piaffe. Travelling a little bit too much and not really enough step. So she's going to lose little marks there because you couldn't really decide when she'd finished the piaffe and gone to passage. So there's a mark for the passage before the piaffe, a mark for the piaffe, a mark for the passage after the piaffe. Hope you can keep up with all of this. And there's a mark for the transition between the two. So you can see lots of marks in that one area. This is too slow. Walk should be purposeful. But she knows her horse, and I think she's has to just ride what she's got. If she said go a bit more, he'd say, well, I'll give you a bit of trot. How would you like that?
And it's a much longer collected walk in this test, isn't it?
It is. It's,
And what are they looking for in the collected walk?
well, walk, so a 4-beat pace.
They're looking for the degree of collection too in the walk.
And the
aren't they?
degree of collection. The stride should be short and lifted.
This is a better piaffe.
Yes. Oh, and then he just gets his front legs get away from him a little bit. So he wants to progress, and he kind of goes with his front legs to start with, and that makes him get a little bit long. But that was all of that was better than the previous section. And she's trending here on 61%, so she's made up a few marks from the half passes. And there was a little blur there where she did 1 times when she would prefer to have just stayed doing 2 times. And so that always
Becomes an expensive mistake.
yes. This should be gallop. And it was a nice amount of movement once she got going, but she was too slow out of the box, you know. It should be, I'm showing you, it's extended canter. So a cautious beginning. This is good in the balance in the half passes. So doing a better job in these than in the trot half pass. Still needs more bend to the right. I wasn't counting.
Neither was I, but I thought the layout was quite good.
Yes.
Even either side of the number of steps is also important.
And the 1 time.
And another little mistake.
Yeah, so you can see he gets a bit exaggerated with his hind legs and consequently loses balance.
Makes it harder for himself.
He does, yes. Good pirouette. Well balanced,
Well centred.
well centred. Good sitting.
Maybe a little bit more sitting.
Lost a little bit more. She lost the shoulders towards the end. So in the pirouettes, you've got to say to yourself, can I see it cantering around? Is it canter? Does it look like a 3-beat pace? And the best one just looks like it keeps cantering very easily on a very small circle. Final centre line, passage, piaffe to come at X, passage all the way up to G for halt.
By this stage, the horses are getting a little tired. It's a long test.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort. and she's finished, not quite square in the halt, but well maintained, and it's 61% currently trending, and really just a few too many mistakes in the changes especially, and in the trot half passes early on, but some other good work. And it's a horse again with quite an ability, but sometimes a little exaggerates his ability. Ultimately, you want that ability, so it's always tricky. And there's her score of 62.065% for Linda Foster and Neversfeld Samiro. Currently in first place is Alison Gill with Hilkins Denali on 67.02%. We're expecting the next competitor. Yes, she's coming down the ramp right now.
So who have we got here, Jill?
This is Sydney Evans and Dara Park Tequila Sunrise.
Which is also a pony. That's why he's got the little P in brackets after his name.
Yes. Certainly a difference in size from the previous competitor, but our second pony also did a good job yesterday, so I expect another good result from him today.
So Sydney Evans from the Central Coast in New South Wales. She runs a training barn, Evans Performance Horses.
Never helps when they need to go to the toilet in the middle of things. Better out now, however, than later. But in these half passes, the second one better than the first. The first a bit trailing in the quarters. Both of them could have what I would call a bit more oomph. Very obedient reinback. Of course. Oh no, I'm wrong. Oops. Now we get into passage. That's right. I was having a moment. Okay, and I'm finding this passage that's not really established. And then the piaffe, a little bit flat. And even though it's a pony, it should still have a clear moment of suspension, lift its knees, lift its back legs out of the dirt when you watch passage. So the walk takes a little bit longer with the pony. Now, here we are. This is where I thought we were. Into passage. It was a good start. It had showed good lift right at the beginning of that passage, and then loses it as it travels forward. Piaffe, it's diagonal, but it would you'd have to say more lift, more activity. She's trending on about 61%. The spectators are enjoying it at 66%. Two times changes, the last one short behind. And good attempt with going on that extended canter. For a higher mark, it would need to be a bit more uphill, so it would look more like it was travelling up the hill. Here on the zigzag. Fairly balanced to the left and a little bit different in its amount of bending from left to right.
Looks like he's starting to settle into the test a little bit more, so maybe that lack of going was because he was a little tentative in the beginning.
Yes, could well be.
He's got a cute little tail swish in those changes.
Yep, but they were good changes, clean. So Mark is improving as well from the judges.
It's amazing how the tension or just the anticipation of the test can sometimes affect horses differently. Some horses will become a little bit overexcited and some horses will become a little bit introverted, and he definitely looks like he's warmed into the test as it's gone along.
Yes, both those pirouettes were well balanced, well controlled, and I think probably my impression perhaps is that Sydney was might have been a little bit frozen as well at the beginning of this test, and now she's got into it a little bit more as well. She's asking a little bit more from the pony, and there we're seeing a really nice trot, both the extended and the collected through the corner, best she's shown. And a clearer passage from the front. And here she probably needs to give him a big kick. But she won't, because it's towards the end of the test. I think I can see a smile on her face. And a happy rider, and so yeah, really much improved by the end of the test all round. Trending on 63 now. And that was Sydney Evans and Dara Park Tequila Sunrise with a score of, waiting, nearly there, 63.188%, putting her in second place at the moment. So ponies, 1-2 at the moment.
Super effort.
Go the ponies.
So if you've got a pony at home, start training.
Yes, this is what you too can aim for, to come to the lovely Willinga Park Dressage by the Sea, sponsored by Foresight. Welcome to into the arena, Jessica Robinson on Remy Beelzebub. Remy Beelzebub is a Hanoverian gelding by Brentano 2 out of, seems like we don't know, Walsing Matilda according to the screen.
So the bell has rung and the counter on the side of the screen has started. She has 45 seconds to enter the arena in the Grand Prix CDN, sponsored by Denise Rogan and Ataris. Here at the beautiful Willinga Park, Dressage by the Sea 2023, sponsored by Foresight.
Made a good entry. It's always really important, if you can, to come in and be straight and positive. Get the judges thinking this is going to be good. These days when we have half marks for movements, extra 6.5 versus a 6 or 6.5 versus a 7, you want the judge to be positive.
Wanting to give you that extra half a mark.
That extra half a mark.
Makes a big difference.
It does. Over 20 or so movements. It's important. So here in both her half passes, she needed to be more parallel. Quarters are trailing a little bit. Into the halt, which looks like it's bang on C, and it was very square. Good steps, a little bit low in the pole, going backwards. So an expressive passage, but a little bit downhill and getting strung out. I would say more steps for the Piaffe.
But the passage was better after the Piaffe, do you think?
The second one was, yes.
I think this is the worst part of the test. It seems to go on forever when you're riding it. Around, around, around and walk. It's not a rest, is it?
It's not a rest. There's a lot of thinking going on. So nice and direct into passage. We just want the pole up a bit more sitting. So there you can kind of see the bottom of the horse looks higher than the front of the horse.
So we talked about that yesterday, about the, where the pole was and the posture of the horse. You really want it to look like it's going up a hill rather than down a hill for the lay person. You can also take part in the spectators judging. If you've got the app, you can download the app and give yourself a go at judging, or have a go at judging.
And those that are, we've got spectators judging at the moment, and they've got Jessica on about 63%, which is about the same as the judges. So we've got good judges out there. So here you can see she's trying to just get the horse back underneath her after that extended canter, ready for this zigzag. Good changes of bend. Could travel more sidewards, but she's made the choice to keep it more forward thinking in order to keep the balance of the pattern. And she can breathe a sigh of relief and go, phew, got my 15 ones. Again, they were clean. They were fairly straight. And we would just say, could be more uphill. Always more. Oh, and here she's lost him altogether. Miscommunication there about turning or whether I was doing piaffe. So, but she's recovered okay. But that will be, the pirouette isn't one of those movements that has a coefficient on it of 2. So it's twice as valuable or
Twice as expensive.
Twice as expensive. Did a good job on the second one. And expressive in the extended trot. So he tried hard for her in that. He is kind of running out of steam. He tried to keep going. Again, I would say it was croup high, but remember from in front I can only look at what I can see. And so the ending was fine. And she's come back up in some marks. She's recovered a bit from the pirouette to trending at 63.5. Waiting on a score, or the final score, here it is, for Jessica Robinson and Remy Beelzebub, 63.732%, moving her up into second. And well done, Jessica. Now coming into the arena is Heath Ryan riding Hunterview Jasper. Hunterview Jasper is by Jazz. He's 13 years old and he's owned by Michelle Wallace. Heath always has an interesting salute. A salute is a requirement of the test. You must take your hand off the reins and you can drop it beside you, you can touch your cap. In the old days, the gentlemen always took their hats off, but these days with crash helmets, you don't. That comes from the military of respectfulness to the judge.
So he's definitely going for it from the beginning. Got the motor running. Heath has been an Australian representative rider. He's also been a coach at the Olympics for the eventers. So, very successful career.
And produced countless Grand Prix horses. He's not a beginner at this, that's for sure. And he'll bring all that expertise into the arena. This is a horse very new to the level, and it's looking a little bit wide-eyed about the whole thing. But we can certainly see some talent in that extended trot. Passage now into the Piave. He's keeping it well on the spot, but consequently losing the activity, so we would call that in two parts. Oh, something happened. He dropped the reins, I think.
So what are they meant to do with the reins in that extended walk? They're meant to keep a contact and
You're
a
meant
connection.
to keep a contact, a light contact.
And let the horse stretch.
And let the horse stretch. Now,
Lengthen the
I think he
rein.
actually dropped the rein or went to drop the whip or something happened. So, anyway, he's had a chance, at least it happened in the extended walk, he's got a chance to recover. And probably that didn't hurt the horse at all because it got a chance to have a really good stretch. Okay, so again, that transition, it didn't happen when he first asked, and then he had to ride a bit more strongly. Okay, so we're seeing a bit of tension creep in here as the horse maybe started almost in half pass. Before it started its 2 times changes and then got going. But we really would like it to be a bit more supple generally, softer in itself. I think it's saying, whoa, this is a really big experience.
A little overwhelming.
A little overwhelming, yes.
But you can see that the posture of this horse, it has the pole as the highest point, but it needs to be probably a little bit looser through the necks rather than tight
Yes, exactly.
for a better mark.
Well, the neck is connected to the back, and if the neck is tight, then the back is tight, and that's not something we want. And there were 15 ones. Heath is, again, very clever at getting horses to change, but he's going to want to get them more forward than that, covering more ground. And he's trending on around the 62% mark. And the judges will be noticing this general tension and tightness. And in that pirouette, loss of rhythm, kind of almost spinning around. So the pirouette's supposed to be a controlled jump of 6 to 8 strides around the circle. But that's its party piece for sure. It can get going beautifully in the extended trot. And here, front on, it's an expressive passage. There's a little bit of swinging of the hind legs. Now a little bit crooked. Got through that and got him forward. It's quite a narrow horse, so its footfall is close together. And the halt wide behind. And there's a score for Heath Ryan on Hunterview Jasper of 63.442%, placing him in third position. The next horse, yes, has appeared. This would be Hannah Barker riding Harrogate. Harrogate's a 14-year-old warm blood gelding by Jive Magic, owned by Susan Bailey and ridden by Hannah Barker.
Welcome back to the Grand Prix CDN here at Willinga Park, sponsored by Foresight, Dressage by the Sea, and this class is actually sponsored by Denise Rogan and Antares.
Pushing power of that extended trot just not quite equal behind. And here more bend to the right through the body would be good. She's better again to the left. 5 steps, not quite straight and a little bit dragging of the feet. Better effort on that extended trot. And again, here's the passage, not really established, so that early passage mark won't be good. And in the piaffe here, you can see one hind leg lifts more than the other. And so it's just the horse isn't getting into the rhythm of the piaffe. In the collected walk, this is a good job in the collected walk. It's very difficult to keep at the same regularity all the way. She did well on that. Here again, we've got this idea that maybe it doesn't know enough about how to get into passage. It said, I haven't done it ever before in my life, which we know is, of course, not true. So it's got a bit of stage fright.
It's just that clearness of the transition is what the judges are looking for, that it should start at a marker and finish at a marker.
And she recovered well and did good job on the 2 times changes. 2s are quite nice to ride. They're from a sitting up on top of the horse. It's a easy rhythm to get into. 3 times changes, which you do in previous tests, always quite tricky.
And this horse looks a little more comfortable in the canter. Starts to show a bit of a better shape, posture. You're counting again, aren't you?
Trying. So, you know, just a messy last change. It counts the whole thing. Here the ones. Again, a little bit croup high. Oh, and a stop in the middle. So, from a judge's perspective, it'll be a 4 for that movement. And there's 3 judges, so that's, as we say, costly. She's got to recover from that and try and get some good marks here on the pirouette. And it shows the ability to sit really well, but it's not quite controlled enough or small enough. You can see that lovely bending in the hocks and the sitting. But it's quite strong, this horse, in that sense. So with her errors so far, she's dropped down to about 59%. So she can bring up the marks if she can get a little bit more throughness in the passage coming up. And we need more lift in the piaffe. Enthusiasm is my word for it, really. Get going. But Harrogate has said, I think I really need to have a little lie down in my stable. So he's finishing up on about 59.5. Might well come up to 60. And given no doubt given Hannah something to think about what she can do to improve her work with his passage and piaffe.
I can't see it.
Next into the arena is Kathy Chittenden riding Neversfeld Springbok. Kathy is a local to this area, living just up the road near Nowra. This is Kathy Chittenden on Neversfeld Springbok, and named for his deer-like light-footed qualities. And you can kind of see that straight away as he trots across the short side.
And I think Springbok was bred by Jane and Maury Bruce, also from the Southern Highlands. Bowral.
No, the South Coast.
South Coast.
Yes. Us South Coast people want to know where we're from. So Kathy's a local to, relatively speaking, to Willinga. And this horse is, again, not particularly established at the level. Kathy doesn't overly campaign him. He's been a little bit wild in the past.
Exuberant.
Exuberant. Springbok-like, yes. But here today, so far, he's
very expressive, isn't he?
He is. She's got him thinking good thoughts at the moment, trending on 69%. Good lift in the early part of the passage and good rhythm in the piaffe, but a little bit of tension in the mouth. You can kind of see the head and the mouth.
But managed that quite well.
But managed quite well, absolutely. And in and out. So the right amount of lift and sitting.
So the judges have, well, from here, 6.8 for the piaffe, which, you know, without that tension could have been a very high score.
Yes, exactly.
And that's always the trade-off, isn't it? Do you go for maximum on the spot and maximum lift, and sometimes you can sacrifice the harmony. So that is really the rider's job, to manage their horse and keep it on the job. A lot going on. You can see this horse directly go to passage. It's a very clear transition. And you can see the hind legs or the back end of the horse lowering into the piaffe.
So 2 times changes, 9 of them, that was achieved, but you might have noticed that the hind legs weren't really taking a very big step, and could be described as short behind.
So maybe she's mindfully making a decision to ride the canter a little quieter. I would like to see a little bit more energy in the canter, maybe.
And a bit more uphillness and collection in general.
But sometimes that with a horse that can be nervous or shy in the arena, you put the energy levels up and you may get another problem. So managing this very well. She's trending on about 67 at the moment. And I think sometimes that is the trade-off when the canter is probably not active and forward enough, but that is knowing your horse. Looks like it's got lots of ability, this horse, to sit.
Yes, a tiny pirouette, and she kept it well throughout the whole thing. But it's the uphillness, and there's this, you have this feeling that he might not keep going.
He looks extremely supple and elastic, and probably a lot of energy that he doesn't really know what to do with sometimes. Painting a nice picture there, though.
So he's kept it together coming down the centre line. He really has managed to keep it together, even though perhaps there was a threat that I might not want to keep it together. So I think, again, Kathy would be very pleased with that, and the fact that he's just standing still at the halt is also good. Trending on 63%.
And it is, for those people at home, it is a requirement that after the halt that the horses leave on a long rein. Like, a lot of people don't know that, but this is also, it's not, you're not marked for it, but it's out of respect. You'll leave the arena on a long rein. And you can see this horse looks, you know, he looks fairly calm and relaxed on his way out, which is a good sign of a happy horse.
Our next competitor is Sienna Anderson, riding Tally-Ho Something Saintly. Something Saintly is a 16-year-old Trakehner gelding by Tally-Ho Jupiter, owned by Sienna and bred by Carlin Hawkins.
The bell has rung here at Foresight Dressage by the Sea 2023. We're looking at the Grand Prix CDN. My co-host is Dr. Jill Rickard and I'm Christine Crawford. We're here with you for the long run, for the weekend. We've seen some great tests.
For those of you that weren't tuned in yesterday, most of these horses, but not all, but certainly this horse was in the intermediate 2 yesterday. So they've had a little, they've had some arena practice and got some remarks back from the judges. And so for some of them, they'll be able to implement some suggestions. And for others, perhaps, it requires going home to the drawing board. Sienna's started quite well here. This is coming to the halt and the rein back. Now he thinks he might have a little look around. We talk about the pole being the highest point, but in fact, for that moment, he was against the bit or pole a bit too high. And all these things are judged by, they affect every movement. So although we don't always talk about them in every movement, the posture or the frame of the horse is in every movement. And here, whilst we're judging Piaffe and we want him to keep more active, which he lost the activity, the posture was probably a little bit better.
So they're also looking for the straightness and the rhythm and the regularity through every movement as well, aren't they?
Oh, number one is regularity, without a doubt. And that is, it's a crime to not be regular. In the old days, they used to call them major mistakes and minor mistakes. They probably still can talk about them like that, but so a major mistake is being irregular.
Angus.
Okay, began, he bounced into the passage. If he could maintain that bounce in the passage, that would be more ideal. And here, a little bit creeping. It's meant to be on the spot, but it's also meant to look like it wants to go forward. So
Full of energy.
Full of energy. That one's a creeping one and needs more lift. Oh, now that I would describe that as a minor mistake. He
Had a little look.
had a little look at something and swung his quarters. You can forgive him for that. That's no big deal.
So here we talk about the straightness of the line, the accuracy of the line, maybe a little bit swinging. there's definitely a lot to take into consideration when you're giving marks for these movements at home. If you're on the Spectators app, give it a go.
And so 15 ones, but with some swinging, and you might have noticed the neck moving left and right. Swinging can happen in all parts of the body of the horse, and every rider has a different, perhaps way of giving the aid. Really, with this horse, we want a more positive uphillness in all its movements. So it's learning its job, but it has to learn to carry more weight on its back legs and keep going. Trending on about 60% now. And finishes with a not quite square halt and could have been more immobile. It was a bit keen to leave the arena, I think. The trend remains on 60%. The audience keener and liking it on 66%. Entering the arena is Helen McCaskill riding F1 Sunny Bill. Sunny Bill is 14 years old and by blue horse Don Shufro.
So maybe, Jill, we can talk the people at home on how the judges, how are they going to score this? What are the mark ranges?
So In dressage, we start at 10, and that means excellent. Each number has a word meaning attached to it. 10, 9, 8. 8 is good. 5 is sufficient. 0 means it's not executed. Hopefully not too many zeros. We might have had one yesterday, in fact. But, and we'd love to see some 10s, but 10 meaning excellent is very hard won. And
so here today, what are we on? What's the leader on?
the leader is on 67, I think, 67%, which means 6.7 overall. Remembering there are 3 judges. You can give a half mark, so you can give 6.5 when you're not sure whether it should be a 7, which means fairly good, or a 6, which means satisfactory. So you think it's a bit better than that, so the half mark. And so here we're trending on 66%. So basically all these judges are saying this horse is somewhere between a 6 and a 7 in his work. And it's been a nice beginning. But to be a good beginning and to get 80%, it's when we then notice more the quality of its paces and how easy the whole thing looks. So here we can see a little bit of skipping behind in the passage. It's not always even in its stride length. And we talked about regularity, and because this isn't regular, they won't find it easy to give it a good mark. But dressage is a subjective sport. So what might be for me a 7 could be for my co-judge a 6, or for my other co-judge an 8. And they now have safeguards to try and iron out the differences in the really big competitions with a panel of judges and an overseeing technical judging group. So if there's a really wild discrepancy, they can kind of have an overcheck. But we don't have that here. So we've got 3 judges all doing their best, wanting to give marks. This is a better job in the Piaffe, yeah.
Settling into the test.
Good. And then he said, I just couldn't get out. And it's a really hard thing to ride out of Piaffe and into Passage, which is why there's a mark for the transition. So we talked about straightness, and we certainly had straightness then, but sadly an error behind in one of the changes. That might only drop the mark by 1, because she did keep the rhythm of the counting quite well. She's trending on 62%.
So the judges are looking for a clear changeover, and they're looking for the half passes to be even either side of the centre line with the correct number of steps. And so we can see there they're losing a little bit of balance and a little bit the symmetry of the movement.
Yeah, so going the same amount of sidewards in either direction is what will keep the symmetry. And she ended up quite a long way to the right. fairly well controlled. Pirouette. So he sits a bit better to the right than the left, but he goes around a little bit too quickly, so loses the actual control of the pirouette.
And this is obviously one of his highlights.
Yes, that's an expressive front leg.
So you can see that all of these horses are all different shapes and sizes, and some, by God, have naturally very good posture and shape, and then it's managing the movements. And other horses, the riders have to do a lot with the posture and the shape of the horse because of the way the horse is made. So, yeah.
Oh, now he said,
thought it was halt.
I thought it was halted X. And in other dressage tests, it's very common to halt at X. So all his career before now has been, we finished the test at X. And yes.
Helen had to remind him.
Helen had to remind him. She has a big smile. She appreciates his thinking, I think. Trending on 61.19% at the moment.
So we've got a score for Helen McCaskill on F1 Sony Bill, 61.232, and that puts her into 8th position currently. We are going to have a small break of 10 minutes, and we will be back with you shortly for Foresight Dressage by the Sea 2023, the Grand Prix CDN. So we'll see you soon.
Hello everyone, we're here at Willinga Park, Dressage by the Sea, sponsored by Foresight, and today we're having a little chat with Alex, who's the National Manager, Sales Manager of Foresight.
Yep.
And so some questions about Foresight, the wonderful product.
Fire away.
Tell us, what makes Foresight special?
Well, you'd probably know when you go to your saddlery or your feed store, there's just a ton of supplements there. What makes Foresight products really unique is the amount of robust evidence that we have. So when we make claims about the product, we can actually prove it with some really good evidence. Then joint supplements are not cheap, and you want to make sure that, if you are investing that in your horse's long-term soundness, that the product actually works.
Yes, absolutely. That's terrific. I'm a veterinarian, and so I love facts
and not myth.
Yes.
And so you've recently done, and I think it's been released, a research paper.
Yes, we have.
What does that tell us?
So we had a paper that's been conducted at Colorado State University, and it's a really exciting paper in that we were clearly able to demonstrate epitalus, which is the active ingredient in all of our products. And so we're able to prove that it has significant anti-inflammatory effect, and that's one of the things that we really want to manage with our performance horses. But the biggest thing was that we were able to demonstrate its ability to slow disease. So if you have a diseased joint, the horses that were on the epitalus had significantly less changes at the end of the trial compared to the horses that weren't. So that's just a huge tick.
That is a game changer.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, of course, and I know this for a fact, that we don't just have it for horses. We also have it for dogs, because my very own dog, he takes his Foresight every day and he likes it, and I've noticed an improvement. So what about us? Can I take it?
Yes, you can. So we also have a human product, which we started producing because the equine vets were so thrilled with the results they saw in horses. They started eating, the horse version, and it doesn't taste that great. So they're like, can you stick it in a capsule? So we now have a human product called Osteo Restore, and we also have our very first human study, which has been peer-reviewed and published, and that was looking at resolution of knee pain, and we had some fantastic results with that too.
Oh, terrific. Well, my knees are asking for it, so I'll be taking it. In fact, I'll probably take the horse one while I wait for the capsules to sort of come out.
Yep.
So I do see a lot of horses, and a lot of people ask me, what joint supplement should be the horse. What joint supplement should the horse be on? And at what age should we start? And so do you have an opinion on when we should start them on Foresight?
Look, honestly, I think the earlier the better. We know that joint disease occurs over a number of years, and so there's that chronic inflammation that can occur even in young horses, and it's the young horses that do dumb stuff in the paddock. So we may not necessarily know that there's subclinical inflammation going on within that joint. And so I think if you want to invest in your horse's long-term soundness, getting them on as soon as they're broken in, so 3 years and onwards, is a really sound thing to do. Pardon the pun.
Well, there's nothing better than a sound horse in my book, and there aren't too many of those. So let's hope Foresight keeps us going for a little bit longer.
I'm sure it will.
Great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Alex.
you. Thanks, Jill.
So welcome back. We have the next horse into the arena, Rosalind Tyler, riding Sandro Bliss. She has 45 seconds. Well, it's a bit less than that now. So to the viewers at home, thank you for tuning in. Foresight Dressage by the Sea 2023. You're watching the Grand Prix CDN, and your hosts are Dr. Jill Rickard and I'm Christine Crawford, here to guide you through some of these tests. It's a very impressive horse that Rosalind's on. I presume it's by Sandro Hitt. He's produced a lot of Grand Prix horses. Very successful sire. So she's had a pretty good start. She's trending on 65.
And we've got some nice crossing and flow across the arena. So half pass should always look, it should look attractive. It's dancing sidewards. And so you want to see the crossing, freedom in the shoulder. And they were both well done. And good on the 5 steps back and pretty direct back into trot.
So when we were talking before about the regularity, this horse has a real definite beat to its trot, which makes it very obvious that it's got a good rhythm and a good regularity. And we go to the passage, and then we lose a little bit of the regularity, which sometimes is inexperience, isn't it, Jill?
Oh, it is, and beginning horses, you know, it's such a strong, you have to be strong to keep, you know, imagine jogging on the spot yourself, jumping from one leg to the other and having to keep doing that.
So physical strength.
It's physical strength, yes.
So in the corner of your screen, you can see the spectators judging app. So if you'd like to give a go at judging, download the app and jump on board, and we can have a go at judging together. What are we looking for in the extended walk, Jill? For those people at home that may not know what
Extended walk is the biggest walk, and so it should be ground covering, purposeful. Of course, number 1, regular, and that's 4 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And relaxed, but still with a faint contact on the bit. So the neck stretches out and down, but it's not a loose rein.
So here's a better attempt at the passage.
And we just want more energy in that. The horse has the idea, but doesn't keep going with it. And here she gets the opportunity to say, come on, let's go, matey. We're cantering now, get positive. Across the short side, we want to see a positive canter. And I'd be wanting more canter than that.
So she got them.
She got them, but we could see the swinging. And if you're swinging, you're not really putting your weight evenly on both back legs.
So not pushing.
Not pushing, or carrying for that matter. Okay, so I really want to say to her, be braver, have a go faster. Anyone that knows me know that I say, go on, give it a kick. And here we see the 6 strides to the across the arena with the flying change on the 6th stride.
So there's a lot to manage there, isn't there?
It really is, yes.
mistake at the beginning there.
So falling to trot, loss of impulsion. It's at the end of the one times changes, which she'd made a mistake in. So,
Costly.
well, more costly, but perhaps not quite as dramatic because she'd already made a mistake. So, and they probably come up with the mark. But she has dropped to just over 60% as her trending mark.
So you can see a few little mistakes can affect your position in the placings. Started very well. It's unfortunate, a few little hiccups, but that's horses.
Yeah, that is the sport.
It definitely presents a very elegant picture.
Yes, and she's managing him. She didn't have such a good ride yesterday, and here he's getting a little bit flustered, but she's actually got him through the test and shown off all the elements of the test. So overall, she's going to be much happier than after yesterday's test, and she's probably learnt quite a bit about what she has to do with this horse in the competition environment.
And that's really what it's about, isn't it? It's a journey with you and your horse.
It is. It's a long journey. It's one that has its lows and occasionally gets the odd high. You have to savour the highs. I always say that, savour the highs, because it's hard.
So we'd like to welcome our next competitor to the arena. It's Charlotta Pedersen riding,
Bonhausen's Diamond Dancer.
I'm glad you said it.
13-year-old Danish warm blood stallion by Don Diamond, owned by Charlotte and ridden by Charlotte Pedersen from Victoria.
So the bell has rung. And Charlotta is entering the arena on this very impressive stallion. Had a little moment there after the halt. Maybe he was deciding to do his own version of dressage. She's got him back on track now. So this is another one, in my opinion, by God, has a very good posture.
Well, he's a stallion. Stallions have a bit more crest on their neck, so they can actually look, well, they have a certain stature regardless, and he's a well-conformed horse. He's built uphill. He's quite short in the back, so his hind legs are basically built underneath him. So there's lots to like in the type of the horse. Charlotta, of course, very experienced at Grand Prix with other horses in the past. She's had a little break, like all of us do, between Grand Prix horses. And this one's now just come into this level. This will be his first big competition. and not quite established in that early passage. And here, not enough piaffe steps and not enough on the spot. It's quite a purposeful walk. He just looks like he's not quite straight through his neck. There's nice activity here in the collected walk. So collected doesn't ever mean slow. It means a more energetic into the air, really. Height in the steps. This is a better job in the passage. He's remembered he does know his job. Yes, and piaffe steps, so you can see nice bending of the hocks, knee lift, just not enough steps.
And she's obviously made a decision to make that a little travelling.
Yes, I'd say so. Yep, keep it all smooth and flowing.
There's that nice uphill posture, that, or frame, or whatever you'd like to call it. I call it posture because I think that makes more sense. Did we miss one?
Oh, we missed the last one. Such a
Bugger.
bugger. Oh, we're not supposed to say things like that. But yes, that's really what you'd be saying out there. And then you've got to switch off from thinking about that mistake and get on with the next bit of the test. Because he didn't need to, I don't think she needed to make that mistake. It was a combined error of the pair of them. Oh, and now we've had a little moment there, a bit of a fright. Oh, he doesn't, I think there was something to do with the waterfall, but anyway, she's got to regroup here on the zigzag. And actually has done, you know, a creditable job there to get it back together. So again, what a shame. He's just come off her aids a little bit, so he was slow to start the ones, and then he got going, and then he stopped again, and then she actually got 10 at the end that were really nice changes. But if you're the judge, you have to mark it as a 4. So final centre line coming up, needs to try to make this more secure in the passage and the piaffe. In the knees, more lifting. Keep going in the piaffe, that's more on the spot from where I'm sitting. And more steps, so that was good. And a balanced halt, but not quite square. And so the mark has dropped from fairly nice beginning errors, the head toss, all those things, they kind of worry the judges. And so the mark is less than 60 at the moment. Will have given Charlotte quite a bit to think about. He was actually, you know, scored well yesterday. Might be a bit tired today.
And he's a stallion.
And he's a stallion, so he therefore has a boy's opinion. Yes, we know about boys and opinions, don't we? Next into the arena is Danica Van Sleeve, riding For Fun 45, a 15-year-old Westphalian gelding out of by 50 Cent. Ridden by Danica Van Sleeve. The bell's rung.
So quite a positive entry. The halt could have been a little bit more on the hind legs. But a very impressive chestnut gelding with all of those white socks.
So here the trot has flattened and gone on the forehand, and it was a struggle with the bending. Yeah, steep half passes require a great deal of suppleness.
So they tend to show up any differences from left to right, don't they, being that steep?
They do indeed. And that was a really lovely rein-back. Very deliberate steps. And you can see there's some issues here with whether he should do it, whether he maybe he'd like to stop. And the Piaffe, again, the capability is there, but the submission to the movement a bit less so. And the horse really has to be on your aids and believing you to do this sort of work. And repeatedly do this work.
Definitely becomes a real partnership at this level, because it is not normal to be trotting and cantering towards a big screen, but so they have to really trust you and be on your aids. So the aids are the small little signals that the rider is giving the horse to cue it for each movement. If you're not familiar with how the rider's making this happen. For me, it's a bit the energy in these Piaffe and Passage. It sort of becomes...
Yeah, it becomes tentative because all the legs don't keep going. One leg perhaps is doing more than another leg on the horse, where you're stronger. And, you know, you can liken it to any athlete. It's making yourself work all of your body all of the time. And, of course, the horse, you know, he didn't always want to be a dressage horse. He'd probably be happy standing under a tree or grazing in the paddock. So you've got to keep him motivated to do his job.
And that's sometimes the tension to it. It affects horses in different ways.
Yes.
She's really going for the Canter.
Yeah, I love to see that. That was good job. Because he stayed uphill and he did go for it, and that's, you know, he'll be better for that after that. And now he gets to do the zigzag. And you need a bit of forward impulsion in this, because although you're going sideways a lot, you've got to keep changing direction. So impulsion is really important in this. And easily forgotten in your efforts to go sideways.
So for me, even though he has his pole at the highest point at that moment, there probably could be a better connection to the bridle, a better contact. And that's difficult because they've got to be forward enough to be able to do that. A lot of things going on. And there's just that lack of energy or lack of impulsion. You don't want the feeling that the canter is slowing in the pirouette. You've got to keep the rhythm and keep the tempo and maintain the shape and keep the uphill. There's so many components. But he can go forward. So Danica trending on about 59%, coming down the final centre line.
She really needs to say, "Come on, mate, you can do it." I'm sure she's saying it in her heart, but perhaps he's saying,
It's a long test. It's
I'm
a long
done.
test.
"I'm done."
If you're just tuning into the live streaming, you're watching the Grand Prix CDN here at Foresight Dressage by the Sea. We'd like to thank our major sponsor, Foresight, for the continued support. Fabulous product, keeping all our equine athletes at their top.
Next competitor into the arena is David McKinnon, riding Forlan, a 13-year-old Dutch warm blood gelding by Jazz, owned by Carol Oatley, and today ridden by Dave McKinnon, who's from Bowral, just up in the Southern Highlands.
So the bell has rung, and David McKinnon on Forlan, about to start their test. Dave having a very busy show here with his wife Robbie. Run a very successful training stables in the Southern Highlands. It's a very impressive horse.
It's a good-looking GG, and it can do an extended trot. That's nice ground cover. I'm sure actually on the next one we'll see a bit more, just beginning, but Now he's got it, it's in a lovely frame as it trots across the short side. Could just catch the quarters up a little bit in this half pass, but keeping the rhythm well.
And the judges seem to have liked it so far. He's trending on about 75%.
It's got a soft, supple way of moving.
Elastic.
Elastic, we love elastic. And pole is generally the highest point. It's in a good, looks nice. Not the easiest of reinbacks, but so you can see the energy in its hindquarters there. The hocks are bending. The pointy bits out the back, for those of you that don't know what the hocks are. It's a very major joint. And here we have passage, a little bit slow to establish it, and then into the piaffe. Could stay more on the spot, and it's a little bit high with its back legs so that its top of its bottom stays up. But we saw piaffe, and now we're seeing a bit more expression in the passage.
And the energy.
And the energy was, yeah, definitely good. And here, nicely relaxed. You can see that sort of I'm walking across the arena look. Yep, I'm doing it. That's what you want to see in a walk. Stretching, going, regular. And then into the collected walk, back up into the higher frame, shorter, higher steps. So he's trending on 72%. And here into the passage. Some really lovely steps. And then here piaffe. 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, and then a very large, I don't think so. And so he's going to carry on. Now the judges will have to mark him for an error, of course, because he did a circle. But of course, that's not really the point. The point is that's a very major, when I was talking about major and minor before, that's a major disobedience or mistake. So anyway, then he has to regroup, move on 2 times. And which he managed well. And the scores dropped down to about 64%. So that's, that's what happens. And you don't really want to see that. And that was good counting, well balanced on either side of the centre line. Kept the frame well. Now the ones. And, 15 clean changes. For the quality of its canter, they could be longer in the future, but they stayed uphill. They were well placed. So he's taking back some marks now. Pirouette, small, turning, well balanced, sitting, that will score well. And again, that one, an even better pirouette. Now he lets go a bit more, and oh, well, he did let go a bit more. Spoke too soon, yes. Sorry, Dave.
It's trending on 69% with the spectators in the spectators app, 70 now.
So he managed that piaffe, well, safely. And the passage, so he's had to be, you know, thoughtful, pleased with how he's managed the ending of the test. Again, this horse is brand new at this level and doesn't get to compete. We don't see him very often. We did see him here last year, and he won the Intermediate 2 last year at this at this event. He's trending on about 65% with the judges. The spectators love him on 72.
We have a score.
Brianna Talitsky riding First and Het. So half past right, needing more bend. It kind of lies against her right leg in that half pass. And on this one, really the same. It lies against, so it just doesn't, it's just not very supple left and right in the half pass in trot. Impressive extended trot. And into the passage, which is a little bit getting going, a bit laboured to start with. And now in the piaffe. Again, it just can't quite keep the rhythm of the piaffe going throughout the whole thing. And its left hind, it's a little slow. Active collected walk. Direct passage. It was good transition. Needs more lift, but getting a bit more lift. And now, so let's see if she can get the left hind to do some work. Yes, sort of. I think in general, better attempt.
Definitely looks like he's having a little look at the fountain. A waterfall.
Nine twos. Horses tense through its body or in its back. So still managing the twos, but
she's really going for it.
She's really going for that one. And she can no doubt feel that tension, and she's decided that if she puts the hammer down, maybe she can ride some of it out of him, and I think that's a really good idea.
Very long-legged gelding, isn't he?
He does have a lot of leg, yes. And that, you know, he has to control those legs from, they're a long way from his brain, and sometimes we do wonder about horses' brains.
So he got them all?
He did, although my counting wasn't very good there. I just watch the whole thing. She's trending on 62%. So the marks come up a little bit from some of the earlier work. So the suppleness issue that we saw in the half passes, it is kind of reflected in other movements, in that this horse, who is a very tall horse, needs to learn to attach his legs a bit more and use them to his body and put all of himself into the movement. And as a rider, a trainer, it's our job to teach him to do that. Generally speaking, even if you give them the book to read, I think they turn the light out pretty quickly.
So coming to the end of their test, Brianna Talinsky and First and Hit. Here at Foresight Dressage by the Sea. Major sponsor Foresight. We thank them again. And this class is sponsored by Denise, Rogan and Antares.
Into the arena now is Gary Lung and GB Winchester. Winchester is a gelding age 20 by Weltmeyer, ridden by Gary Lung and originally bred by Glenys Barry, who's here today commentating on the show jumping arena.
So the bell has rung. And Gary Lung is about to enter the arena. Gary is from Queensland. And that says New South Wales on the screen.
Yes, I think he's a Queenslander as well. And we see that Gary's horse got some age on it now. The mother of this horse was a horse called Saffron, GB Saffron. Glenys Barry, who I rode with at the World Equestrian Games in 1990, rode this horse's mother at other events after that level. She was a lovely mare. And so Gary's loves this horse dearly. and he's a great number that just keeps trucking on for him.
And he knows his job.
He knows his job. He does indeed. So keeping the bend and the rhythm quite well through both those half passes.
Gary looks like he's really going for it today. He's had a little warm-up test yesterday.
Well, we always say there's no point in leaving it in the warm-up arena, is there? Good, now making the transition to passage, and here the horse says, oh no, maybe it's straight into piaffe. So this is the difficulty. You can see the horse kind of knows its job, but it also maybe knows its job almost too well and it took over a little bit there. But here, there, lovely piaffe steps, really lovely piaffe steps. And that's quite difficult to judge because you actually don't know when it started, and you know, so it depends if you're, from a judge, how quick you can be, because you have to keep putting these marks down one after the other after the other. I'm telling you, there's nothing easy about judging.
So the judges have given that piaffe a 7. So that's quite a good mark.
Yeah, because they probably did take into the fact that it took a while to establish and there wasn't much passage before it.
For the transition to start here at M. And again, a little bit the same problem, which is unfortunate.
And again, that's a major disobedience, and so you know, it's one thing to muffle the transition, but it's another thing to walk backwards.
I think that mark for the passage would be hard to mark, really, the piaffe. Okay.
Yeah, well, really the transition didn't happen where it should, so it's a very low score for the transition, and that will, well, obviously the mark goes down. But anyway, it's always this case. You move on and you get on with the rest of the test.
So the piaffe he marked quite well, 7 for the piaffe, even though there was a bit of confusion at the beginning. Back to it. On with the test.
I was counting, and I made it to 9, so terrific. Perhaps 9's my limit, I'm not sure.
And again, good to see that he's really going for it in the extended canter.
The layout of that. So he found it easier to go left than right, and there was a bit of an effort in making the change happen from one to the other. But he did actually get through it all. And I wasn't counting, but I feel like there was 15 of those. Yeah.
He was happy.
Yeah.
Gary was happy.
So he's the one who has to be happy. And so here you can see the loss of the canter beat and also control of the hindquarters around to the... So he's lost the outside hind leg on this one. He rides it a little bit more easily.
So maybe he rode that one slightly bigger to help that.
Yeah, and so you'll get a difference of at least a mark between the two pirouettes.
For different reasons.
Yeah, but the second one was definitely better. And he's trending on 61.6. So he has certainly recovered from a couple
Must have
of
liked the changes. They got a 7.
Ah, very good. Come on, we don't need you to stop yet. Come on, matey. That's it. This is your party piece. You can do this. That's
it's
it.
interesting, isn't it, that the Piaf was really good in the other places on the arena, but coming down there, they quite often think that X is the spot they stop.
Yeah, and the older and wiser they get, sometimes the smarter they get as well about when tests should finish. So he's ended up on around about 61.6%, and given a couple of fairly major disagreements, that's a good recovery. There'll be parts of that test where he'll be disappointed, of course, and other parts where he'll be quite pleased that he regrouped. Just an update on the scores. Currently in first place, we have Alison Gill riding Hilkins Denali on 67.02%. In second place, David McKinnon on Foreland on 66.015%. In third place, Jessica Robinson on 63.7%. And in fourth place, Hunterview Jasper, ridden by Heath Ryan, on 63.4%. Now is Susan Elacassi riding Callum Park Geneva, a 12-year-old mare by Argentile Grenadier. So a little cautious in the extended trot towards the red screen. She had a few little problems with the red screen yesterday, so better response so far towards the screen. Half past the rhythm's quite good, more parallel. Just running out of impulsion towards the end of the second half pass. hesitant. Probably be saying only 4 steps if my counting was better.
I counted 4.
Sometimes you like to imagine you saw the 5th one. And as a judge, you have to decide, how important is that 5th step? But yeah, it was more in the hesitancy of the rein-back that was the problem. Or the willingness to go backwards is the other thing. Some quite good steps in the piaffe. Again, not really maintained for 12 to 15 steps. And the passage the same. It's there. It's just not constant in and constant out.
So this is where the tension can show, isn't it, in the extended walk?
Yes.
Has a little bit of shyness to the arena. But Susan's doing a great job keeping this mare on track. She's a little spicy redhead. Super type. And there's some confusion in the collected walk, a little hesitant to go forward. Should be continuous, but quite nicely to the passage.
Yeah, so the anticipation in the walk will have not been good for the walk, but it helped the transition into passage. Here against the bit or a little high in the neck. And some nice steps. But we talk about submission as a word we love in dressage, submission, and it doesn't mean submissive behaviour. I must do what I'm told. It means I have understood that the connection from my hind leg into the bridle is coming out the front in the nice, supple way.
It's a willingness to accept, isn't it?
It is a willingness to accept.
And I didn't count.
I think I did. I just feel that, and I felt that was 9. And feel is an important quality in a rider.
Starting to look a bit better.
Especially if you can't count.
Better through the neck there to me. Starting to relax a little bit more into the test, hopefully. And the relaxation does play a big part. There's some horses that when they're a little nervous, it shows through the whole horse, and there are other horses that can be nervous and it doesn't show. Susan's doing a great job to keep this tidy. She'd obviously like a little bit more relaxation and over the back, but you know, don't we all want that? We always want more, like Jill said yesterday. So got the changes, did she?
I think there might have been a blur at about
Yes.
12.
So for a higher mark, so what are we going to do to get a higher mark for the changes? What do they want to see in those changes to give a 10?
Well, 10, we want the same canter before and after and within the changes. So a very high quality canter, big ground covering, collected strides, uphill frame. The placement, evenly spaced across the arena. The bigger they are, the less room you've got.
So feel the whole diagonal.
Just about, yes. A really big striding horse, you've only got a couple of steps as you start the diagonal before you must start riding the changes.
So coming to the end of the test here. A little bit high in the frame. Maybe the motor's going a little bit Too much? She knows what's coming.
Yeah, so she got some good lift there. I think from the side, the judge on the side would be unhappy with the head position. From in front, I'm probably unhappy with the head position. It's got a certain tightness about it, but certainly the front legs were coming well up into the air. Trending on 60.1%. And again, I think for Susan, the horse is at the beginning of its Grand Prix career. I think she'd be actually quite happy to have managed the horse through that test, with lots of room for improvement, of course, but a confidence booster. So a score for Susan Elikassi and Callum Park Geneva of 60.725% and 12th place currently. Next competitor is Rosanna Relton riding Redwood Desire, Hanoverian mare by Dancia, owned by Rosanna and ridden by Rosanna.
So entering the arena now, Rosanna Welton riding Redwood Desire here at Dressage by the Sea. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm Christine Crawford and I'm here with Dr. Gillian Walton.
No regard.
Sorry. Could be.
So Redwood Desire, it's a neat type of horse. It's by a horse called Dancia, who's a prominent stay in Europe, and you can kind of see it's got such a lovely it's a lovely type of horse. Takes a good shape, has nice supple elastic movement. And a good example of a square halt, immobility and 5 steps back. That should score well. Set off with a flourish into the extended trot to V, and now should have enough power to get into passage. That's the point of doing extended trot passage, is to create power and then to contain it. And some good steps. And here in the piaffe, getting the rhythm going, getting some enthusiasm, little unsteady in the head. nice out. And then it says, oh, it's hard work, got to keep going, lift those knees.
And this is a good extended walk.
Yes, you can see the body's well involved in this. It sounds silly to talk about the body being separate from the legs, but it is, horses can give an impression of the legs
Moving
doing,
in the body, not.
yeah, that's right. And so we want all of the horse involved.
It's a very elastic horse. It does it with ease.
And at the sort of the second half of that piaffe was some really good steps. You can see in that piaffe the diagonal steps that we want, the sitting, the carrying on the hindquarters. And as it developed, it got steadier in the head, so it managed to do it more with what we call self-carriage. And enthusiastic, forward-thinking changes. She's trending on 67. It's a good score at this stage. Light-footed kind of extension, not heavy.
It also paints a picture of harmony, doesn't it? They look like they're working together.
And here from in front you can see that the horse isn't quite as supple going to the right in those half passes. So manage the 15 with some swinging, and not as good a canter stride as she'd had. So in time, she'll be taking bigger steps and they'll be straighter. Here to the left, a good job in the canter pirouette left. And so when we watch for the right pirouette, we might be wondering if it's as supple to the right. And so I would say it wasn't quite as supple, but she rode that just a little bit bigger to make sure she kept the canter. And that's what you do. That's the right thing to do. More important to keep the quality of the pace than make it too small and lose the quality. Still on about 66%, so she's maintaining her position, which would put her in second place currently. We want this to keep going, not get too head noddy. Good. Coming out. Keep going all the way up to X. The last few strides the horse is already saying, I'm sure it's about to be stop. Good, straight. And she's a happy rider. And the trend is still on 66.6 in second place, so we might give the leader a little shove here. Never can tell. We'll await. So while we wait for the score for Rosanna Relton and Redwood Desire, there's a short break until 11 o'clock. And here's her score of 66.739%, placing her in second position. Our current leader being Alison Gill and Hilkins Denali on 67.02%.
So, welcome back to the Grand Prix CDN. Foresight Dressage with the Sea, by the Sea. We've got Julie Bland entering the arena. She's riding a 16-year-old warm blood gelding by Jive Magic called Jordan, and he's owned by Julie. He's bred by Heath and Rosie Ryan. So the bell has rung. So Julie coming all the way down from Queensland. And she's off with lots of energy.
Jordan powering across quite well there. And he's a, big horse in the arena. Has the power. Could be a little more supple through his whole body in this half pass, both over the back and laterally. Got his eyes a little bit out on stalks at the moment.
Was actually quite nicely into the hold. He was actually square, but then the immobility was not quite there. And he's off again. Trending on about 64% currently.
So hind legs more under in the passage, rounder in the frame, and here more enthusiasm from the hind legs. The front legs not doing too bad a job, but so more diagonal and more lift in a round frame.
So Julie's a great competitor. I'm sure she's been here last year. I saw her last year competing. It's a big trek for these horses and riders that come from Queensland. A lot goes into the preparation to get a horse to an event like this. So I hope she's having a lovely ride and a nice experience. It's a great venue. We thank Willinga Park for hosting this fabulous event.
So a more generous activity level in that piaffe, and in and out as well. Just, again, not so submissive to the bridle throughout. Preparing for the twos. Nine twos. So happily goes forward in the extended canter. Perhaps less happily says, maybe I don't want to come back quite as much as I should before the change. So the transition a bit blurred, losing the balance in these half-pass zigzags. It looks like it's an effort for both of them. And ease of movement is another one of those terms we say.
So for a higher mark, we could have had a better line for the changes.
And so in both of those pirouettes, the right one was probably better than the left one, but you kind of get the impression the horse has to use its head to lift itself around the turn, and that's not what we're after. We want it to look like it weight bears and sits on its hind legs and keeps the canter going easily.
And that looks quite nice coming towards us.
Until she just ran out of steam going into the piaffe. Then he's got going again. And an enthusiastic moment coming out of the, that was good.
So not a bad score for Julie. I'm sure she'll be happy to have that one under her belt. I don't think this horse has done that many tests at this level.